I used to think loyalty was something you proved by enduring things. Not dramatic things, not the kind that leave bruises. Just small, precise erasures. Being talked over. Being assigned tasks instead of seats. Being described as sensitive whenever I objected to something that would have wounded anyone else. My sister had a talent for it. She never raised her voice. She never needed to. When she got engaged, I became useful. I handled vendor calls when she was too stressed. I negotiated the catering discount. I transferred the deposit for the reception hall without mentioning that it meant postponing my own renovation plans. And the condo. That part was never formally discussed. Months earlier, she had offhandedly said, "Wouldn't it be amazing if we had somewhere to start our life? Something already set up." I had already purchased the condo 2 years prior as an investment. My name alone was on the deed. She knew that, vaguely. But as wedding conversations escalated, the narrative shifted. It became, "The place my sibling is giving us." I didn't correct it. Every time someone thanked me for such generosity, she would squeeze my hand and say, "They've always taken care of me." It sounded affectionate. It felt like assignment. The day before the wedding, we were in the hotel suite for final fittings. Steam from curling irons clouded the mirrors. Bridesmaids were taking photos. My mother was crying softly into tissues she'd folded into perfect squares. My sister stood in front of me while the seamstress pinned the hem of her dress. She smiled, not widely, just enough to signal privacy. And leaned closer as if adjusting a button on my jacket. "You know what would be the perfect gift?" She whispered. I thought she meant something sentimental. "You disappearing from our lives forever." The words were delivered gently. No anger, no drama, just relief. As if she were suggesting I remove an unnecessary centerpiece. I looked at her, waiting for a joke to follow. None came. She straightened, beamed at the room, and asked if anyone had seen her lipstick. I stood there holding the silence like it belonged to me. Something in me stopped negotiating that date. That night, back in my apartment, I opened my laptop and reviewed documents I already understood. The condo was legally mine. Entirely. The down payment mine. The mortgage. Mine. The title mine. I called the real estate attorney whose number I'd saved months ago but I first considered selling. I had never followed through because I'd convinced myself family mattered more than clean exits. "Can we finalize tomorrow morning?" I asked. He paused. "Before noon?" "Yes." By 1:30 a.m., on her wedding day, I was seated across from him in a quiet office while the city moved indifferently outside. The buyer had already transferred funds into escrow. I signed where indicated. Wires were released. The sale completed at 11:47 a.m. Irreversible. I didn't feel victorious. I felt calibrated. Before heading to the venue, I stopped at a print shop. I made copies of the original deed showing sole ownership, alongside the finalized sale confirmation. I wrote one letter and printed it multiple times. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't accusatory. It simply stated, "The condo was always legally mine. It has been sold as of this morning. I wish you both stability built on clarity rather than assumption. I will be stepping back, as requested, at the reception." I placed an envelope at every table before guests were seated. Tucked beneath napkins, aligned with cutlery. The ceremony itself was beautiful. She looked radiant. The vows were sincere. During dinner, curiosity spread quietly. Someone opened an envelope early. Then another. I watched the ripple travel. Not explosive, not chaotic, but unmistakable. My father found me near the bar, holding the papers with hands that trembled just slightly. "You sold it?" he asked. "Yes? Today?" "Yes." He looked at me for a long moment, as if recalculating something he'd misjudged for years. Then he nodded once. Not approval. Not anger. Recognition. The groom approached next. Confused but measured, she thought. "I know," I said. Across the room. My sister sat very still, the letter unfolded in her lap. No tears. No outburst. Just the slow comprehension of structure shifting beneath her. When our eyes met, she didn't smile. For the first time in my memory, she didn't look certain. I didn't stay for cake. I left my gift envelope on the gift table, a standard check. Appropriate and unremarkable, and walked out before speeches began. The night air felt unfamiliar, like a city I'd lived in, but never fully noticed. I didn't block anyone. I didn't disappear. I simply stopped responding to expectations that required my erasure. In the weeks that followed, there were calls. Some apologetic, some practical. My mother asked if things could go back to normal. I told her I hoped not. I don't know what my sister tells people now about the condo. Maybe that it fell through. Maybe that I overreacted, it doesn't matter. She asked me to disappear. Instead, I removed the part of myself she felt entitled to. The funds from the sale are sitting in an account I haven't touched yet. I'm considering relocating. Not to escape, but to begin somewhere without pre-assigned roles. I lost access to family gatherings without tension. I gained something quieter. When I look back on that moment in the hotel suite, the steam, the whisper, the smile, I no longer feel small inside it. I feel grateful. Because sometimes the clearest gift someone can give you is the truth of how little space they believe you deserve. And sometimes the only dignified response is to step out of that space completely, not vanished, just unclaimed.